Hello everyone, as I'm sure you're all well aware, it's Thanksgiving time, and I just wanted to ask you one question. What do you think of when you hear the word Thanksgiving? I'd wager a guess that most of you might think of spending time and having fun with friends and family who you don't get to see too often. Others might think of all the good food you get to eat, or even the Black Friday sales going on, getting ready for Christmas. But one thing you probably don't think about is the history behind Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is commonly recognized as dating back to the year 1621 and was first celebrated by the Pilgrims and Native Americans. The colonists of Plymouth, Massachusetts, who were mostly Puritans, a group of English Protestants who sought to reform the Church of England back in the 16th and 17th centuries, shared an autumn harvest feast with the Wampanoag tribe. Pretty standard stuff that you learn in school. But after hearing this, you're probably asking, what does any of this have to do with the title of this video? Well, nothing really. That intro is basically a big segue leading into the main topic of the video. On my channel, I like to make videos that fall in line with the holidays and seasons going on at the time, so I was trying to think of what would be a good video for Thanksgiving that's mystery themed. When I was thinking of the history of Thanksgiving with the Pilgrims and Native Americans, a certain mystery I've come across in the past popped into my head surrounding different groups of Pilgrims and Native Americans. Transitioning from the colony of Plymouth, Massachusetts, we take a look at the lost colony of Roanoke, North Carolina. The colony of Roanoke was an attempt by the English explorer Sir Walter Raleigh to found the first permanent English settlement in North America. For some background on the founding of Roanoke, the Outer Banks of North Carolina and southeastern Virginia were first explored in 1524 by Giovanni de Verrazzano, who mistakenly identified the Pamlico Sound Lagoon of North Carolina as a Pacific Ocean, believing the barrier islands to be an isthmus. He suggested to King Francis I of France and King Henry VIII of England that this could serve as a shortcut to China, but the idea was not pursued by either monarch. By the way, when I'm talking about Massachusetts and North Carolina, those states weren't established back then, but are just the modern day locations, so you can better visualize things. In 1578, Queen Elizabeth I issued a charter to Sir Humphrey Gilbert, allowing him to explore and settle regions not claimed by Christian nations. Gilbert, having previously been involved in suppressing the Desmond rebellions in Ireland, interpreted this charter as granting him rights over the New World territories north of Spanish Florida. He briefly claimed St. John's, Newfoundland, as the first English territory in North America in 1583, but perished on the return voyage to England. After Gilbert's demise, Queen Elizabeth reassigned his charter. His brother Adrian Gilbert received rights to Newfoundland and territories northward, where a northwest passage to Asia was sought. Sir Walter Raleigh was granted the regions to the south, overlapping with Spanish claims. Richard Hakluyt, recognizing Verrazzano's mentioned isthmus within Raleigh's area, promoted English exploration there. Raleigh's charter, dated March 25, 1584, required him to found a colony by 1591 or forfeit his colonization rights. His mission was to explore and settle remote heathen and barbarous lands for England's gains, potentially using the colony as a base for privateers to attack Spanish treasure fleets. However, Raleigh was not allowed to leave the Queen's presence, so he managed these expeditions from London through his appointed leaders. In 1584, an initial colony was left on the island under Ralph Lane, but failed due to harsh conditions and poor relations with the local Native Americans. They were rescued by Sir Francis Drake in 1586, and this foreshadowed the following mystery, showing how this island was never meant to be colonized. And now, we dive into the mystery of Roanoke. This portion of the video will be a little different than what I normally do on this channel. Although I've heard of Roanoke and its mysteries over the years, I was never too familiar with all the details of the events that happened to it. And if you're new to this channel, I do a lot of research to make these videos, and it takes a lot of time to put them together, especially since I run two channels on top of working a full-time job and having other commitments. And as I started working on this video, I came across a Twitter/X thread talking about Roanoke by the user The Black Wolf. So what I want to do is a bit of a narration from his thread and shout him out. So go check his page out, and all credits to him for this portion of the video. In the spring of 1587, the visionary Sir Walter Raleigh dispatched a group of 117 English men, women, and children to the wild, uncharted coast of Roanoke Island. Led by a Governor John White, the settlers included families eager to forge a new life in this vast and foreign land. The colony was established in the midst of pine forests and coastal winds on an island surrounded by treacherous shoals, swamps, and thick, murky marshes, a place as isolated and unforgiving as it was beautiful. But from the very beginning, The colony was plagued by hardship and dread. The settlers faced fierce resistance from the indigenous tribes and struggled with dwindling supplies, insufficient shelter, and an environment that seemed indifferent to their survival. After a brief and unsettling tenure on the island, John White made the difficult decision to return to England to secure fresh provisions and reinforcements for his settlers. Yet, he could not have foreseen what would delay his return: a war between England and Spain, which trapped White across the Atlantic as the mighty Spanish Armada bore down upon his homeland. What was meant to be a 3-month journey became an agonizing 3-year absence. When White finally returned to Roanoke in August of 1590, it was not with a sense of triumph, but with a heart heavy with foreboding. As his ship neared the shoreline, he saw only an unsettling stillness, a colony seemingly devoid of any life. The settlement was eerily quiet, and as he approached the weather-beaten cabins and trampled pathways, he saw that not only were his people gone, but so were all their possessions. No boats remained. No remnants of campfires or discarded tools littered the ground. It was as though every man, woman, and child had simply melted into the misty forest, leaving not even a footprint. The only clue was a single word carved into a post near the entrance of the fort: Croatoan. The letters, rough and deliberate, stood out like a message from beyond. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now Hatteras Island, and the home of a Native American tribe of the same name. But whether this word was a hastily scrawled farewell, a plea for help, or a coded warning was beyond White's understanding. Strangely, there was no indication of violence, no signs of a massacre, no remnants of bones or battle scars as might have suggested an attack by a hostile force. The disappearance of the Roanoke settlers has given rise to a shadowy legacy, thick with theories, legends, and supernatural speculation. Some believe that the settlers joined the Croatoan tribe, merging with the indigenous people to ensure survival. Others argue that they succumbed to starvation or disease and perished in the woods. They remain scattered and hidden by nature's relentless embrace. Still, darker theories hold that the settlers encountered something otherworldly, something lurking in the dense forests and marshes that rendered them as shadowy and invisible as the spirits who roam these lands. Over time, whispers grew of strange sightings and eerie tales passed down by local tribes. The Croatoan people spoke of figures who appeared in the forest, ghostly forms with fair skin and unfamiliar clothing. They mentioned voices drifting on the night air and the flickering light of campfires seen from afar, only to vanish when approached. The nearby Roanoke tribe would later speak of peculiar spirits haunting the woods around Roanoke, leaving eerie signs, abandoned campsites with freshly burned embers, strange symbols carved into tree bark, and fragments of English clothing half buried in the earth. One chilling legend even holds that a local witch, foreseeing the arrival of foreign invaders, cursed the settlers. According to the tale, she summoned an ancient spirit to protect her land from these pale outsiders. In return, the settlers would be drawn into the swampy forests, led by phantom lights and strange sounds, only to vanish forever into the shadows. It was said she was as old as the trees and rivers themselves, with knowledge of ancient magic and rites that no one else dared to understand. And so, the witch called upon the spirits, performing rites in secret, summoning forces from the shadows and the depths of the land that would turn the soil itself against these outsiders. In the dead of night, as the settlers huddled in their cabins, strange things began to happen. Whispers drifted through the trees, calling each of their names in voices that sounded like loved ones back in England. By day, shadows would dart at the edge of their vision, slinking between trees, trailing their steps just beyond reach. And at night, the forest around them seemed to breathe, to grow thick and oppressive, like a living thing pressing in on their crude fort. Children started vanishing, and then men and women. Those who stayed back in the settlement claimed that the forest itself seemed to move, to crawl closer each night. The towering trees leaned inward, branches gnarled and twisted like grasping fingers. A foul, sweet scent hung in the air, clinging to their clothes and their hair, a scent that would haunt them even as they slept. Even the animals disappeared, no deer to hunt, no birds to signal dawn. The settlers' small gardens wilted and died, crops rotting in the ground before they could even be harvested. The land, it seemed, was rejecting them, cursed and turned barren under the witch's spell. One night, as the story goes, a few men gathered the courage to confront what was plaguing them, armed with nothing more than their muskets and lanterns, hoping to end the curse and free their colony from the dark grasp. They ventured into the depths of the woods, their lantern lights dancing like fireflies among the shadows, but the forest swallowed them up, and they did not return. Days passed, then weeks, and the colonists began to accept the fate that awaited them. Those who lingered in the village began to hear chanting, a rhythmic, low murmur that rose from the earth itself, spreading throughout the colony until every man, woman, and child felt the weight of an unseen presence. Finally, a desperate few decided they had no choice but to leave, carving the word Croatoan, maybe indicating the source of this plague, into the tree as a last faint hope that someone would find and follow them. They set off, guided by the whispers that seemed to point them towards a distant island, where they hoped to find refuge from the darkness closing in on all sides. Over the centuries, Croatoan has become a word imbued with dread and mystery, appearing in other sinister moments in American lore. Edgar Allan Poe, the celebrated writer of the macabre, reportedly scrawled the word Croatoan in his journal shortly before his own mysterious death in 1849. The word appeared again at the deathbed of Amelia Earhart, the famed aviator who vanished in 1937, and even as an inscription in the room of the notorious stagecoach robber Black Bart, discovered after his mysterious disappearance. It is as though the word carries a curse, a dark link that bridges the chasms of time and pulls all who encounter it into oblivion. Archaeological digs on Roanoke Island and nearby Hatteras have yielded few answers, though fragments of English artifacts have been found on Croatoan Island. These finds lend some support to the theory that the settlers may have sought refuge with the Croatoan tribe, either willingly or out of sheer desperation. However, no definitive evidence has surfaced to explain why they left or whether they left under duress. To this day, the fate of the lost colony remains shrouded in the fog of history and speculation. On dark autumn nights, when the wind howls and rustles through the trees, Roanoke Island bears an eerie quiet that feels heavy with secrets, a silence that seems almost to speak, as though whispering the voices of the vanished settlers. Those who visit say that even now, beneath the thick carpet of forests and dunes, the colony's restless ghosts linger, waiting for someone who can finally decipher the meaning of Croatoan and release them from the spellbound island that has claimed them. Roanoke is a ghost story without an ending, an unbroken thread of mystery that haunts us still. Again, make sure to check out the Black Wolf's account on Twitter/X and give him a follow. I'll link his page in the description of this video. But with so many explanations and theories thrown around as to what happened to the colonists of Roanoke, it shows how truly strange this mystery is. Some follow-up information that I want to touch on are modern investigations of Roanoke. Some searches focused on modern-day Hatteras Island, previously known as Croatoan Island, but definitive proof of their fate hasn't been found so far. In the 1930s, a stone with a message purporting to be from Eleanor Dare, the mother of Virginia Dare, was discovered, but its authenticity is heavily debated, and most historians consider it a hoax. Virginia Dare was the first English child born in an English-American colony, that colony being Roanoke. In 2020, an archaeological team announced the discovery of a map symbol indicating a secret fort on the mainland, suggesting that some colonists might have moved there, but this still doesn't resolve the ultimate fate of the settlers. Another thing I found fascinating while researching and going through that thread was the mention of different paranormal entities. For Halloween, I put together a video of paranormal entities from around the world, using the Phasmophobia ghost list as a base for the video. In that video, I talked about things like spirits and ghost orbs, which were mentioned in that thread, and entities that sound like the depiction of mimics, mimicking other humans to lure people, and shadowy figures like phantoms and shades. So, if you guys want to learn more about those paranormal entities to get a bigger picture and come up with some more theories as to what happened to Roanoke, go check out that video. I'd really appreciate it. There's also beings known as a skinwalker in Navajo culture, which are seen as witches that have the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as animals, and beings like the Wendigo that are said to be creatures with human-like characteristics, being able to possess humans, kill them, and eat them. Creatures like these were shown in the artwork of the thread I went over and could possibly be seen as explanations to some of the weird circumstances behind the disappearance of the Roanoke people, but aren't often looked at as for explanations. But I just felt that I should include those to cover all my bases. But with that, I think it's best to bring the video to a close. I know this is a bit of a shorter video than what I've been trying to put out recently, but I want to get something out for this month, otherwise my channel will never grow. And since it's Thanksgiving time, I'm sure a lot of you guys are just busy preparing for Thanksgiving, so you might just appreciate the shorter video this time around. But I know there's a lot more I could put into this subject, but I don't really want to just read off an entire Wikipedia article unless that's what you guys want to see. Just let me know in the comments if you want to see me talk about all the little details surrounding the video topics I do, or just focus on the main points regarding subjects and letting you do the research from there, because so far I mainly touch on the main points, but I'd be happy to go super in depth if that's what you guys want, and I can even go more into depth into Roanoke too. But in closing, odds are we'll probably never know what truly happened to Roanoke unless we make a time machine, come across some detailed journal from one of the colonists, or we already know some of the information but it's being covered up by the government to suppress some darker, more mysterious secret. But what do you guys think? Along with telling me how to improve on my videos, let me know your theories as to what happened to Roanoke. Make sure to check out my gaming channel where I stream multiple times a week and cover gaming lore and storylines with Fortnite and a bunch of Nintendo games. That'll be linked in the description in the top right of this video, I think up there. If you guys want to see more content from me, like and subscribe to help my channel grow, because the more it grows, the more higher quality content I can provide for you guys, and let me know video topics you want to see me cover. I just want to thank you guys for watching this video and wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving, but for now, I'll see you in the next one.